Hey everybody, this is Matthew Moore here with a interview this time for my newsletter, PD and C Bus. And so we have a very special guest. I'm really excited about this particular interview, and I'm going to click this button so I can see your lovely face. Um, Good. This is Dr. Robert Cochrane, and wow, we are on a journey, man. We are on a journey. That's hard to
Yeah,
believe. We're
yeah.
talking about the first ever full-length feature narrative film that really focuses on Parkinson's. That's part of what we're talking about. But we're going
Yep.
to back up just a moment, Robert, and let people know who you are. So, Dr. Robert Cochran, give us a quick spiel for us. Where do you live? What do you do? Who are you?
Yeah. Hey, who am I? A good, fair question. I live on the West Coast, the a suburb of San Francisco Bay Area called Walnut Creek. This is where I grew up, went away for many years, live in other places, probably most prominently Las Vegas for about 20, but came back to help out mom and dad as they've been aging. Dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's back in 2001, and we've had lots of adventures, and that really the work we've done together, which part of it is culminated in a documentary series called Boys of Summer. um,
Yes, I must see. I must see.
Thank you. Yeah,
Where can they find that, Dr. Cochran?
find that at bosmovie.com. The third film is there. Can see it for free. The other ones, we're working on the fourth. So the other ones are being held out for now, but you can still see the third one there, as well as a lot of other information. Get to know Dad, my journey. The kids make a play in there as well, and what really drove us to what has become, yeah, my life, my work now. This unexpected PhD later in life. Went back for a PhD at 49 because I've been working in the Parkinson's world, really kind of on the fringe of it with nonprofit groups and being a clinical trial recruiter for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, to the point where it's like, this is a lot of what I'm doing. I should probably make it actually my work instead of making it my side hustle. And thankfully, the folks at UNLV, they had a new program called Interdisciplinary Health Sciences, which is all about taking on challenging conditions in society through
Mhm.
alternative means. And I said, hey, look, I've got this paper on the effect of improvisation in Parkinson's, a well regarded paper from Northwestern University and the Second City, the fantastic improv group. And like most academic papers, especially pilot papers like that, it ends with there needs to be more research. So I said, I'll do more research, not knowing how painful that was going to be. And that's the story of that book right there. The difficulty of getting through a PhD program, both at my age and being really on the outside, right? For the scientific world, a lot of what I presented and still what I present is challenging, and I embrace that fully. And I know that's one of the ways that you and I intersect is this desire to get science to open up to the purpose of art in medicine, not as a
Yeah.
oh that's nice, but no, as something with practical effect
Yeah.
that should be prescribed. Social prescribing is what they call it. So
Yeah.
that leads us to us and what I do now.
It was a good summary. You know, what it speaks to me when you say a doctorate at 49, it speaks to passion. And I know few people with such a specific, heartfelt passion as you, Robert. And can you speak to that? Just where does that come from?
Well, it starts with dad. I mean, the journey of becoming an artist. I shouldn't assume that because I don't know your full story in that regard, but I'll say this: that my journey to become an artist, that was also later in life. Growing up, that wasn't my path. I liked writing very much. However, I saw myself very very sports focused. In fact, that's what I got my bachelor's in was radio TV journalism, and was going to be an ESPN Sports Center guy. That was
Mhm.
totally my drive, and was doing work in that field, but it wasn't adding up. I felt like as I was doing the work, I said, this isn't quite satisfying me. I met some people, did some, and I said, no. And as I took this incredible broad leap into, at one point I took this screenwriting class and said, oh, I like movies. People write movies? huh, I could do that. And I got into a program at UCLA, the screenwriting program, a prestigious thing. And all of a sudden found myself in LA going, oh my God, am I an artist? And that was the scary term. Like all the things, I mean, as my sister eventually had to tell the family I'm gay, but like I had to say, I'm an artist. And it was coming out. And
There aren't any artists on ESPN.
yeah. Well, there's this tremendous book I don't know if you're aware of called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And it really, that was the book, thankfully, from meeting other artists that said, oh, wait, this is a practical job, not just a whimsical, you do it because you say you are. And all of the suffering side images of what artistry is. It says, here's the practical work of it. And that helped me lay it in that place. Back to Dad, what it meant is, from the minute I both made that declaration and took on his path, Dad was so supportive. In fact, his words mirrored the words of Joseph Campbell, my other idol in so much of this world, to say, follow your dreams. He really said, you mentioned the word passion for this. He could see that in me. And he said, you need to follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell said. And so
Yeah.
Dad's been an undying champion for me, so I am that for him.
Well, thank you for that segue because that's a perfect spot. One of the reasons I'm interviewing you is because you're a care partner. And forgive me if I'm not right, but you and your sister, right, are the kind of sole care partners in this situation. Can you talk a little bit about that, Robert? What's in particular, I've heard often that care partners feel guilty.
Mm,
They feel a sense of guilt, and I'm not 100% sorry, I'm not 100% sure I know exactly where that comes from. Do you
yeah.
relate to that? And if so, fill that in for me a little bit.
So I grew up Catholic, so I'm familiar with guilt. Yes, almost became a priest at one point, so very familiar with the dogma of it. In our family, in fact, one year for Christmas, we would gift each other these cans that were rebranded Guilt Relief, and we'd spray ourselves with some Guilt Relief. So yes, guilt is a very powerful emotion, and as it relates to being a care partner, the idea is that you're never doing enough
Mm,
because the person you love is suffering. And so with Dad, and by the way, it's not just my dad, it's my mom. What a pair these two have drawn. They were diagnosed in 2001. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And 2 weeks later, Dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And it was just this crazy collision from being relatively healthy people, seemingly heading into, their lives, as seniors, looking really good, to these major difficult challenges. Mom's a survivor, thankfully. However, she struggles very deeply with bipolar depression. And that
mm,
combination of bipolar and advanced Parkinson's for my dad has led to extraordinarily difficult situations, including right now, for the first time in their 57-year marriage, they're not living together. And in fact, tomorrow, my mom is going to be moving into a new place. And it's not they don't love each other, not they don't want to be around each other, but they can't stay out of each other's way. And so my sister and I are constantly managing them. We joke about being their parents now, because we're having to manage the emotional, physical, as well as the psychosocial and just safety needs that are constant. I mean, every time, Matthew, you think you have something handled, something else pops up. And
wow.
you talk about the whack-a-mole thing, of course, relating that to Parkinson's and the Michael J. Fox quote. That is very much what this feels like as a care partner too. And I am blessed enough to be up here in the Bay. I was living in Las Vegas doing distance care partnering, and I can't tell you the terror of the phone ringing at that time, because it was constantly, oh my God, what happened? It still
Mhm.
happens now, but I'm 10 minutes away, and at least I can go and do and be part of things. And it's exhausting, but it's also, from a heart standpoint, comforting to know I'm here, whether it is a visit to the ER, a trip to whatever rehab facility, a visit to a doctor's, or doing something actually fun and lovely together. I'm here for that now. So,
What advice would you give a new care partner?
um, get get care for yourself. I think that's where care partners don't, because of the guilt, because of their need to constantly, quote unquote, be on.
Right.
person in need that they don't take care of themselves. One of the things that made a big difference for Chris and I, my sister, was when we were able to, and again, we're blessed to have the means via dad, but get a care partner for him, right? So that it's not us taking care of him all the time. And in theory, that was to take it off my mom, but mom couldn't be there. So now we're actually moving mom to a different place. But because they have their own needs met by others, in other words, we're not trying to do everything, that allows us to invest in our own lives and sanity so that when those needs pop up, as they constantly do, we have something to give. The burnout factor for care partners is so underreported. The
Mhm.
burden, the
Yeah.
guilt that care partners feel, up to the point of, as we talk about in our screenplay, suicide. It's just it's unbelievable what the feelings are, and the horrible outcomes without help for care partners. So a, reach out, b, really
Protect yourself.
protect yourself and get support from others,
Mhm.
right? And there's so many ways there are for your care partner. Do not try to be Superman, Superwoman, do it all myself, and just smile and grin and go, well, this is my job. And it's like, there's more to you than your role as care partner. You
Yeah.
are a whole person who deserves whole support.
My brothers and I cared for my mom who had dementia and dad, and it seemed like we were always just a little behind the curve.
Yeah.
Like we were always just, dad needed help caring for mom at X point, and we were just a little bit, and we were very focused, the three of us, three older sons, and we were thought we were on top of it, but in retrospect, take action. Take action.
Well, as focused as you are, the truth is, none of us are as focused as the diseases are upon our loved ones, right?
Oh, yeah.
Parkinson's doesn't give up. Dementia doesn't give up. Alzheimer's doesn't give up. It's always there. Again, it's one of the lines I really like from our screenplay, that Paul goes through is that exact one. It's that I don't want to be what Parkinson's is trying to make me be. It's
Yeah.
finding this acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Because it's always there, and that is the struggle, not just for the person with Parkinson's, but for the care partner too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's turn a corner real quick and talk about movies and books. Primarily movies. Dude, you and I are, like I said at the beginning, we are on a crazy path. And so, uh, for everyone to know, I'm still actively doing the stage play. Robert and I together, he is the producer, are trying to turn that stage play into a screenplay, and we want to raise awareness. April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. It's May now, hard to believe, but it's the
Much to
ultimate way
go.
to it's the ultimate way to raise awareness, isn't it, Robert? To use a well accepted and liked, art form to talk about Parkinson's.
I think so. The fact is that stories are not just entertainment devices. However, they can serve as sort of a Trojan horse in that regard, right? And if we are to be successful with our screenplay, which I feel it already is very good, and it's in the development process, so it'll get better, but it has to do that. It has to be both clear and engaging, and to make it a story that isn't just about Parkinson's. In fact, it is about humanity and human struggles that we go through, hopefully told through the lens of some, engaging people, through some engaging situations. So that is what we're doing. That is the how to do it. And consumption for storytelling, especially through visual mediums, TV and film, has never been higher.
Mm.
Um, the different ways people get it, from everything to their phones, to their TVs, to the theaters at large. We are absolute storytelling and story receiving machines. Our brains are neurologically hardwired to understand, appreciate, and then really be moved by these stories. So
Mm.
that is what we wish and hope to do with this screenplay.
Robert, talk about where we are in the process. Where
Yeah.
are we? What do we need right now? And what does the future look like?
Well, so everyone knows I do have this background in filmmaking because of my time, which began at UCLA, then became just an absolute crash course in filmmaking. I made a couple films over that time, one of which got a decent release, this movie called The Players Court, and it got released by Artisan Entertainment, which was a big production company at the time. And funny enough, it made a lot of money for other people. That's not the funny part. Wait, let me get to it. As writer and actor, I got some good, vibe off of it, but the payment went to the producers. That's why I'm producing this project, Matthew. No,
Oh no. Oh no.
no, the Players Court. The funny part is it just showed up on YouTube. The ultimate respect when your movie years later shows up. I'm like, oh my god, someone uploaded it to YouTube, and there it is. Uh,
That's
so, at
awesome.
any rate, having done that, been through several films, I think 8 documentaries, 3 or 4 narrative features. I know this world well. And the stage we're at is called development. And that is when you have a screenplay. We have a writer in Matthew, we have a producer in myself, and we are just beginning to shop the script to the public. And there's a lot of ways to do that. One of them is through film festivals. We may, in fact, be clipping pieces of Matthew's staged presentation into film festivals to show it, to say, oh, wow, this is part of a larger thing. We also are putting the screenplay itself into competitions to get professional feedback. And there are industry people who read these and go, that's interesting. We have just the very close ear, I can say, of a person, put it out there, Ryan Reynolds, whose father had Parkinson's, who does work with Acadia Pharmaceuticals on this wonderful project called More to Parkinson's, where they talk about hallucinations and delusions being an unspoken part of Parkinson's. We specifically incorporated those elements to let Acadia and Ryan know, we hear you, we agree with you, we are trying to yes and that part of the Parkinson's story to get more general public awareness about the need to talk about these things. And again, done in
Ryan did this because his dad had hallucinations, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he and his mom have these wonderful videos, which you can see at moretoparkinsons.com, talking about their experience. Ryan was just at a big presentation with good friend Jimmy Choi, who is a Parkinson's unbelievable
Spokesperson.
advocate. Yeah, and they did this great work. And so, and you had an Acadia rep at a recent
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
presentation who also saw my presentation in Reading. She loved and saw what we're up to. I know she's stomping in the background for us to say, hey, let's get this connection to happen. So the broad of development is we're reaching everywhere as far as we can, to people as far as Ryan Reynolds, to Michael J. Fox and others, to say, we're doing your guys' our community work through this lens in a field that you're already, megastars of. Help us with the heavy lift. In the meantime, as we make those calls, we're talking to you, our friends in the general public. And
Yeah.
what we're doing, because my nonprofit is the fiscal sponsor for this, is receiving donations that allow us to submit to these film festivals, that allow us to potentially hire people locally there in Columbus, Ohio, to start the groundwork of perhaps doing some early casting, of looking into locations, of beginning to find some crew that would work locally for us, because that is part of the job. We want to work and hire locally. There are fantastic tax rebates in
Mm.
Ohio for that if we work with Ohio locals, which we want to do. So we want to bring a project to Columbus and make Columbus proud of us, and show it in a great light. So that's
Yeah.
all part of the project and
Yeah.
process.
Once again, we are trying to make the first ever full length, feature length film about Parkinson's, and we're going to do it in Columbus. And you might get a call, people out there, friends of mine that have PD. You might get a call from me. Do you want to be in a movie? So yeah, help us
Yeah.
out. Help us
Well, let
out.
me add to that too, that when we talk about getting a call to help out, which the financial part is certainly part of, one of the things that I'm excited about in the film is we have a couple of scenes that are written for the Parkinson's community, especially there in Columbus, to
Yes.
be in the film. We want
Yes.
you to be in the film, and that could be from the standpoint of like we have a support group scene, we have an exercise group scene, we have a 5K run scene. So all of these events that you're already part of, we're going to film them. And while we have scripted elements to them, we intentionally will have improvisational elements where we want to hear from you, and it may be part of the film because these happy accidents that happen from hearing the actual people say their truths that are going through this in the community bring a specific kind of energy and light to the project that I think is
Mhm.
very important.
Cool. Just a minute left.
Okay.
Robert, you have a fantastic class. You do. I've taken it. I've benefited from it so much. Sell us a little bit, Robert, on your class, what you're doing. How can people engage with you,
Yeah.
Mr. Elway?
So, thank you. The website is yesandexercise.org. You see the shirt here. Andy taught me good and well. That is the specific class that Matthew took through. It's called the Shawshank Hero's Journey. Look, Ohio folk, if we're talking to you, Mansfield's right up the road. That's where they shot the number one film on IMDb for the past 16 years. It's considered the top film. Well, what we do in this Shawshank Hero's Journey is we meet once a week over the course of 16 weeks online. So it doesn't matter where you're from. And we watch a clip from the film, we study the hero's journey, we hear a song, we play improvisational games, and we help you write your story through the lens of what we say aesthetic distance. So you're creating a character that gets to do something or feel something that is a part of what you're trying to get out there. And a lot of times you won't even know what that is when you begin, but the process of working and playing together will help you by the end of this course have the framework for something that is amazing, that is transformational, can help you rewrite your life and be a shining beacon of light for others, both in your family, your community, and otherwise, to say, oh wow, that there's more to you than I knew. And it's a healing process. And yeah, I hope you'll join us.
The class didn't just make me a better writer, Robert. It helped heal my soul.
Oh,
And I mean that. Yeah. It was
thank
significant and is
well,
significant.
I'm happy to say that, again, for those, we talk about the arts and medicine. This is the part of the reason for the PhD. This is clinically tested stuff. There is research out there that not only I did, but others have backed up to say, this can be taken as a medicine. The same way that exercise gets prescribed, so can writing and community work. This is very, very much a process that has practical value. And once again, not just for the people with Parkinson's, care partners, family members, even the wellness medical providers, we're all part of this community. So again, the invite's open to all of you, and I hope you'll join us. Yesandexercise.org. Cinema
Mm-hmm.
therapy program.
Cinema therapy. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it so much, Dr. Cochrane. And for all those folks out there, thank you for listening. And I'll see you next time, Robert.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye-bye.
Okay. Blessings. Bye bye.